Anglo-Chinese time may be reset as UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer meets President Xi Jinping during his landmark visit to Beijing. Antitrust authority busting alleged bid-rigging syndicate with value of building renovation contract hitting $700 million. And a foil found in a seatbelt buckle leaves helpless Citybus passenger trapped for 45 minutes, prompting firefighters' response. Good evening, you're watching Cable News. I'm Quentin Yan. During a historic meeting in Beijing between the two leaders of China and United Kingdom, President Xi Jinping expressed hopes of building a long-term, stable and comprehensive strategic partnership. Meanwhile, Beijing also quoted British Prime Minister Keir Starmer as welcoming Hong Kong's role as a unique and important bridge between both nations. Jeremy Chu reports.
Leading a delegation of officials and nearly 60 business leaders, Starmer held talks with Xi at the Great Hall of the People. The meeting lasted around 1 hour and 20 minutes. It was the first visit by a British Prime Minister to China in 8 years. Xi praised the Labour government's past contributions to bilateral ties, saying setbacks had not served either country's interests. He stressed that cooperation held great potential and should be turned into concrete results, adding that mutual respect and overcoming differences would ensure relations stand the test of history. Starmer acknowledged the long gap since the last prime ministerial visit and said he looked forward to stronger cooperation.
China is a vital player on the global stage, and it's vital that we build a more sophisticated relationship, but of course also allow a meaningful dialogue on areas where we disagree.
Following the talks, China said in a statement that its development would not threaten other nations and called for genuine multilateralism. Both sides pledged to expand cooperation in education and finance, while Beijing is considering visa-free entry for UK citizens. The statement also quoted Starmer as saying Hong Kong's prosperity benefits both countries and reaffirmed Britain's unchanged policy on Taiwan. The British Prime Minister later described the meeting as productive, with discussions covering whiskey tariffs, illegal migration, as well as issues including the Jimmy Lai case in Hong Kong and human rights in Xinjiang. Jeremy Chu, Cable News.
Hong Kong's antitrust watchdog said it has busted a bid-rigging syndicate involved in 17 building renovation projects that worth a total of $700 million. The cartel is accused of slipping in less attractive pig quotes as a cover for the mastermind firm to win the tender. Jimmy Liu reports.
In a two-day operation, the Competition Commission searched 27 premises linked to 14 companies, including contractors and consultants, which are suspected to be part of a syndicate that has been active for some time. The firms are accused of rigging bids in maintenance projects in 13 housing estates and 4 commercial or industrial buildings in 9 districts across Hong Kong Island, Kowloon, and the New Territories. The contracts are valued at $700 million in total, and most of them have yet to be awarded. Antitrust investigators said the cartel's mastermind is a contractor, joined by fellow companies, consultancy firms, and others as members. The commission said the mastermind would first get hold of the estimation of a project cost from a consultancy firm, which is supposed to be confidential. Then it would coordinate with other contractors and have them submit bids with higher prices or pig quotes as a cover to make sure it wins the tender. In other tenders, the contractors took turns to act as cover bidders to support the designated winner of the tender. The watchdog said these practices are considered bid rigging, price fixing, and exchange of sensitive information in violation of the competition ordinance. The Commission used its powers to request relevant parties to hand in their documents and information and attend its hearings. However, it would keep the targets and case details under wraps and decide the next steps when the investigation is complete. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
A Citybus passenger was trapped for over 45 minutes after failing to release his seatbelt. He was freed by firefighters but later felt unwell and was taken to hospital. Citybus apologized, saying an investigation found foil inside the buckle, blocking its mechanism. The case has been reported to the police. Jeremy Zhu has the story.
Mr. Chen was traveling from Chengquan-o to Chansha-wan for work this morning when he discovered his seatbelt would not release as he prepared to get off. He tried to wriggle free but failed and grew anxious as he was rushing to work. The driver also attempted to help but could not unlock the belt. After consulting the company, which advised against cutting it, firefighters were called. More than 10 officers arrived and took more than 10 minutes to release him. Chen stranded for 45 minutes, later felt dizzy and was sent to hospital. He urged the government to consider the risks brought by seatbelts, warning that in a fire or major accident, passengers unable to escape could face serious danger. Citybus said it is highly concerned and will immediately step up inspections of seatbelts and include performance tests in monthly checks. The company did not respond to questions on whether procedures preventing belts from being cut would be reviewed. Jeremy Chu, Cable News.
Commuters traveling on MTR's Tuen Ma line through Hong Kong Station this Sunday are given a heads-up to allow extra time for their journeys, as trains will terminate at the stop and require a platform change. Jeremy Zhu has more details.
Due to track realignment works, all services from Tuen Mun and Wu Kai Sha, two termini of the Tuen Ma line, will end at Hong Kong Station, starting with the first train of the day. Passengers continuing their trips from Ho Man Tin to East Tsim Sha Tsui will need to change trains at the opposite platform. David Chen, head of line group management for the Tuen Ma line, said to ensure smooth passenger flow, trains will arrive alternately at both platforms. Passengers will only need to wait a short while, but they are still advised to allow a few extra minutes. To assist with the transition, more than 150 MTR staff will be deployed across the station. They will be positioned every 2 to 3 platform screen doors and near escalators, carrying large directional signs to guide passengers. Announcements will also be broadcast throughout stations and on-board trains to keep travelers informed. MTR, the city's sole railway operator, has emphasized that the works have been carefully planned to ensure services return to normal on Monday. The next phase of track realignment is scheduled for March 8th, with the same arrangements in place at the same station. Jeremy Chu, Cable News.
11 members of a notorious crime family operating in northern Myanmar have been executed in mainland today, marking the end for a syndicate behind a vast telecom fraud and gambling empire, responsible for at least 14 Chinese deaths. A court in Wenzhou, Zhejiang Province, carried out the death sentences against Ming Guoping, Ming Zhenzhen, and 9 other core members of the Ming family crime group, following final review and approval by the Supreme People's Court. The group, described as one of the 4 families holding power in Myanmar's Kokang region, built a sprawling network of scam compounds over the past decade. Their activities, which included telecom scams and running casinos, involved over 10 billion yuan. To enforce control within their compounds, the syndicate committed murder, assault, and unlawful detention, actions that directly caused the deaths of 14 Chinese citizens and injured numerous others. The Ming family's downfall began in late 2023 when Chinese authorities issued wanted notices. Key members were subsequently captured in Myanmar and handed over to Chinese police. After a trial in Wenzhou, the 11 ringleaders were sentenced to death last September. Their appeals were rejected in November, leading to today's execution. United States President Donald Trump urged Iran to make a deal in nuclear weapons, or the next U.S. attack would be far worse, while Iran warned its armed forces were ready to respond to any aggression. Jimmy Liu reports.
In a social media post, Trump warned that an armada is heading towards Iran, referring to the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier strike group now in the Middle East. He said time is running out for Iran to negotiate a deal on its nuclear program, or it may face an attack far worse than the U.S. strikes last June. At a Senate hearing, Secretary of State Marco Rubio defended the U.S. military buildup in the Gulf as a prudent move and raised the possibility of preemptive strikes against Iran. The top U.S. diplomat said Iran's regime is weaker than it has ever been as it faces a collapsing economy, and that he expects protests to spark up again. However, he admitted Iran's situation is more complex than Venezuela's and that no one knows who will take over if the regime is toppled.
If the supreme leader and the regime were to fall, other than the hope that there would be some ability to have somebody within their systems that you could work towards a similar transition, I would imagine it would be even far more complex than the one we're describing now, because you're talking about a regime that's in place for a very long time.
A senior advisor to Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei warned that any military activity from the U.S. would be considered the start of war and be retaliated. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said his country's armed forces are ready to immediately and powerfully respond to any attack. He stressed that Tehran has always welcomed a mutually beneficial and fair nuclear deal that is free from coercion and threats. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
Now let's take a look at the stock market. The Hang Seng Index closed 141 points higher. Top active stocks of the day: Tencent was up $1, Alibaba was down 20 cents. Ping An was up $2.35, while SMIC was down $2.05. Foreign exchange against the Hong Kong dollar: Euro 9.32, Japanese yen 50.88. The U.S. Federal Reserve has kept its key rate steady as expected, while also sending a signal of cautious optimism about the economy. Meanwhile, in lockstep, Hong Kong's monetary authority and major banks mirror the move, leaving borrowers waiting longer for relief from high funding costs. At its first meeting of the year, the U.S. Federal Open Market Committee voted 10-2 to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate between 3.5% and 3.75%, breaking a sequence of 3 consecutive quarterly cuts. Citing economic activity expanding at a solid pace and a stabilizing job market, the Fed stated its dual goals of controlling inflation and maintaining employment are now better balanced. Policymakers nevertheless cautioned that inflation remains somewhat elevated. Following the Fed, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority kept its base rate unchanged at 4%. The city's 3 note-issuing banks, HSBC, Standard Chartered, and Bank of China Hong Kong, also hold their prime rate steady at 5% to 5.25%. In a statement, the HKMA noted that the Fed's decision is in line with market expectations, but warned that the future of American monetary policy remains uncertain, hinging on inflation and employment conditions. The public should carefully manage interest rate risks when making decisions about property purchase, investment, or borrowing, it noted. While Hong Kong's monetary policy moves in lockstep with the U.S. under its linked exchange rate system, the HKMA noted that shorter tenor interbank rates can also be influenced by local Hong Kong dollar funding conditions. Amid gold prices hitting record highs for several consecutive sessions, Hong Kong has now seen the listing of its first physically backed gold exchange-traded fund.
We are very delighted to welcome the listing of the Hang Seng Gold ETF. As the first ETF in Hong Kong that supports physical gold redemption in banks, it seamlessly blends the flexibility and also liquidity of an ETF with the security of physical commodities. This enables smooth trading, secure storage, and also flexible redemption, all conducted entirely within Hong Kong.
The Treasury chief stated that the introduction of the bullion ETF aligns with the city's vision of developing into an international gold trading hub. Meanwhile, escalating geopolitical tensions have boosted investors' appetite for gold, significantly driving up open interest in such ETFs, he added. The Hang Seng Gold ETF closely tracks the London Bullion Market Association's morning fixing price of gold as the benchmark. while also including physical gold, with all gold bars stored at designated vaults located in Hong Kong. Each board lot comprises 50 ETF units, with an annual management fee of about 0.25% and no distribution policy. On to the weather now. Mainly cloudy with 1 or 2 rain patches. Temperatures will range between 17 and 20 degrees. Fresh easterly winds, occasionally strong offshore and on high ground. And that's our news tonight. I'm Quentin Yang. Thank you for watching. Good night.